This is the Wacom Bamboo CTL 460. I've had it for 10 years and it still works the same as the day I got it. I've never even had to replace a nub on my pen. But it's also tiny and doesn't have any buttons on it, so starting today I'm using this. This is the GAOMON M1220, which was graciously sent to me in exchange for me reviewing it on this channel. I'm gonna be honest, pretty much the entire reason I made this video is because I got a free tablet out of it. Don't act like you wouldn't have. I'm at 30k subscribers. I'm not exactly being offered 5-figure sponsorship deals yet. But I figured I could also use this as an excuse to give some art advice, as I've made plenty of videos on my channel teaching music making and 3D modeling, but haven't really taught much drawing. So stick around if you're interested in that, but first it's time to appease my benefactors. To that end, I will now unbox this. Let's see, how do you do these kinds of videos? You supposed to like show off what the things on it? It's made in China, as all things are. There's some numbers on the back that I don't understand. I should turn that brightness down. Oh my god. I got money. I could buy a new webcam if I wanted, but I just haven't done it. 8192 level professional pressure sensitivity. 5080 LPI resolution. 266 PPS. Yeah, I don't know what any of that is. Okay, I turned the brightness back up now. Okay, it's coming open. There. Oh, this is neat. Is this like a mouse pad or something? It's actually pretty cool. I might actually use this because it's slightly wider than my current mouse pad, and it's got a bunch of little shortcuts telling you how to use Photoshop, in case you forget. I don't use Photoshop. They also put an E after edit, so it's edite, but that's okay. English is a very confusing language. It's also some sort of protector thing for a tablet, I think? I don't know. Put that stuff over there. And here it is. Wow, that is a lot more surface area than the one I was using. Let's just compare inches real quick. Yeah, and the actual working area on this thing I had is only like this little thingy right here. So I'm hoping this will give me some more precision while I'm drawing. Okay, we got some. Oh, is this like one of them glove thingies? I have an artist glove. I don't know what these are actually like for. Maybe if your hands are really sweaty or something. They look really cool. And now I can yeah. Oh, maybe it helps like glide across it better, so I can use my. Okay. One piece of advice I'm gonna give right now, you're tempted to want to use your wrist, especially when you're on something like this where there's not a lot of surface area. It's like, you know, you want to use your wrist while you're drawing, but you're supposed to move your entire arm, kinda. It gives you a lot more control, and also I think helps to reduce the risk of developing carpal tunnel, which is always nice. The hands are kind of sticky, so it makes it really hard to glide across it, but this glove makes it easier, and there's a lot of surface area now. So I might be able to draw a straight line now. As you can see, there are also a series of buttons upon it. You can change your volume or mute and do a whole bunch of other stuff. You also got these 8 programmable buttons right here, and a wheel thingy that I'm gonna try to figure out how to use today. You know, I only started doing this unboxing because they told me to, but I'm actually kind of getting into it, just exploring all these features that I never had on my other tablet, so I hope you don't mind if I spend a little bit more time just kind of taking it in. This isn't even like a super expensive tablet. I think it's like $80 or something like that, but it seems really nice. It's got a little bag, carry it around in. Alternatively, you could use this to collect candy in, as it is Halloween colored. A mysterious pouch containing replacement tablet nubs. Like I said, I've never had to replace my tablet nub previously on the Wacom, so I'm not sure how this works exactly, but I'm assuming I'll find out, and it looks like there's plenty in here if it ever breaks. I have no idea what this is. Maybe it's to— oh, it's to put your tablet pen inside of this thing. Yeah, you jam it. Wait, is that it? You put it in like that, and then, oh, it's got like a little sleeping bag for it. Alright, sure, why not? User manuals. Various USB implements. Alright, there's like a little piece of paper here telling you where to get the drivers at GAOMON.net/download. If you do end up buying this tablet, one thing you may need to do is uninstall your previous tablet's driver if you have one. As I've read, that can cause problems. Now, you may be wondering how to uninstall your previous tablet's drivers. I am also wondering that, so I'm gonna try to figure out how to do that real quick. Okay, you gotta unplug it, and then you... Device manager. Show the hidden ones. Human interface. Oh god. Blackcom. Uninstall. Delete. And then also the other one. I don't know why there's two. Get rid of it. Okay. And then GAOMON.net/download. They told me to tell you how to do this. Alright, the M1220. I don't know what that is. I'm just gonna get the first one. Okay, and then you're supposed to, after paying for WinRAR, obviously, start the quit all drawing. I did, and then I guess you there's a man. No device. Okay, and then you plug it in. You just find a spot for back here. Down. There we go. Alright, cool. I don't know what half this stuff is, but if I need to mess with it now, I can. That's nifty. You can flip it around if you want to use it upside down for whatever reason, or even like that. And you can program... Oh! Ooh! I know what I'm putting on this one! Yeah! You can also connect it to an Android phone. Neat. Okay, now can I just put it like... I do plan on getting a bigger desk at some point. Oh, listen to that. I was actually under the impression that this would be a wireless thing, based on the images they show on like the Amazon page. They don't show the wire being plugged in here, but it seems that's not actually the case. I'm not a fan of having to charge things up, so it doesn't really matter much for me. The wire does get in the way a tiny bit, but it's not a huge deal. Actually, it kind of slips against like the top of your area pretty easily because it's right at the top corner there, so that's fine. My previous one would come out the middle here and it would have to drape across the keyboard, so this is actually better. Anyway, onto an actual art program. I use Clip Studio Paint, and you probably should too. It's $50, routinely goes on sale for $25, and it's good. Like, hey, check this out. Y'all heard of vector layers? Check this. I can use any brush I want for this. Anything that I've made, like that. And I can go in and I can edit this line that I made. Just like that. Yeah, I'm learning about this wheel right now. If I hold down this button, it gives me a menu and I can choose what this affects. Like, I can cycle through undos and redos with it, like a timeline, like I'm scratching a record. I'm Dave Strider over here. Change the brush size with it, can zoom in and out with it, and rotate the whole dang canvas. I'm actually going to change these a little bit. I want this in spacebar. This will be Control Z, and this will be Control Y to redo. So I can pan around, and draw thingies, and undo those and redo those. Cool. I like this. However, I will say you don't need something like this if you want to get into drawing. You don't need anything other than a pencil and a piece of paper. I have managed to draw things like this using that previous tiny tablet I showed earlier. However, this was after many years of practice, and many layers that are very unorganized. Most of what I end up drawing looks a little bit more like this though. All my stuff is done digitally, but I am going to go over some tips and tricks for helping people at any medium they choose. The vast majority of what I draw is character artwork, however, so that is what I'm going to be talking about. I am not particularly skilled at drawing backgrounds or things like that. Alright, so first off, if you're going digital, go up to File, make a new thing. You want your canvas to be a decent size, at least a couple thousand pixels. It'll depend on the drawing, of course. But it's better to have more detail that you can then shrink down than to have something that's pixelated that you can't size up. 1920 by 1080p should probably be your minimum for most drawings. Just, you probably don't need to go something crazy like 10K or whatever. Hit OK. First step. Change your background color to gray. Because you're not going to be wanting to stare at this for 5 hours straight. Why am I reaching over to my keyboard? I can just use these buttons now. Okay. Second most important tip when it comes to drawing. Your drawings are going to suck. They're going to be absolutely awful for quite a while. It is incredibly important that you are okay with that. If you're not okay with that, you're gonna have a very, very bad time, trust me. Beating yourself up over how bad your art is not gonna get you anywhere, it's just gonna make you feel bad for no good reason. The best possible mindset you can have is to just think to yourself, alright, I'm about to draw something, it's probably gonna look like garbage. Then, you know, you get something and it's like, oh, wow, look at that. Let's say you draw something that looks like this. Let's even say you spent like 3 hours on this and it ended up looking like this. The correct response is to smile, laugh, and move on. You should not be thinking to yourself, oh god, man, this looks awful. You should be thinking to yourself, oh wow, that looks awful. And just, it's fine. Have fun with it, move on. A good drawing is not something you should expect to have. A good drawing is something you should be pleasantly surprised by when it happens to happen. I'll show you what my first drawings look like. You wanna see my first drawings? Here they are. Look at this motherfucker over here. Look at him. Look at him. I was 13 years old when I drew this. Now you might be thinking, okay, 13 is pretty young. But 13 isn't like a little kid. 13 is not a toddler. 13 is like, I'm halfway to being an actual person at that point, and my drawing still looked like basically something a 5-year-old would make. That's fine. If your drawing looks like something a 5-year-old would make, that's fine. Because after just a year, I managed to make something that looked like a 13-year-old drew it. At that point I was 14, so, you know, I was catching up. And, you know, from there you can kind of see my art steadily, sort of improving. I tried to make an actual background for this. The, like, body of this character kind of looks like that of an actual human. The hands are, like, semi-passable. I still don't know how to draw clothing folds, but, you know, one step at a time. This used to be my self-insert, kinda. I don't know why. Oh, some of you might have seen this floating around the internet. I'm sure. Usually people who repost this, like, they leave out the last panel because this is kind of better as a punchline, just the happy creeper and the minecart. But yeah, I'm actually the one who made this. Back in, 2010. This is how I used to depict myself. Oh, how the times have changed. And then, you know, steadily, you know, here I am still struggling, posing looks very stiff. Background elements, as time goes on, I try new things, I sorta get better at the things I already sorta know how to do, like look at this hand. That's kind of a decent looking hand. The thumb may be a little bit small, but look, you got the fingers are bent and stuff. I'm gonna tell you how to draw hands, just give me a minute. And you know, eventually, I find myself able to draw things like this consistently. It is possible to make a large amount of progress in a relatively short amount of time if you practice and like really try to focus on what you need to do to improve, but it is incredibly important to have the correct attitude. I knew when I posted this that hand looked terrible. I said that's probably the worst hand I've ever drawn. But when something like this happens, you shouldn't think to yourself that, oh god, you're so bad at this, why? Why can't you be better? What you need to do is observe and think about how you could have done it better. Why is this hand so bad? It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you learn how to draw a hand better. You Google how to draw hands, for example. Or you listen to what I'm about to tell you. So if I wanted this hand to look better, here's what I could have done. Oh, my pressure sensitivity is not working on this. Hang on, why is that? Okay, you just go up and File, and then Pen Pressure Settings. And you click this if it doesn't work. And oh, it's tablet PC. There you go. I'll just click Reset to Default because I want it to. Okay. As I said, using basically my whole arm, not just my wrist, unless it's very fine little details. Here's how you draw a hand at that angle. Okay, start with the wrist. Then draw like a cube, a blocky sort of thing, going in the direction. This curve is kind of important. You don't want it like this, for example. You don't want it curving like that. because, well, this would be if the hand was facing towards you. If the hand was facing like that, but this one's facing like that. It's like facing away. So we have it like this. Also, the pinky goes here. The pinky fingers, if you look at your hand, it kind of falls off a little bit. It doesn't just go straight out like this. The pinky is like inwards a little bit. It's not as far out. Also, look at your own hands for reference. Look at any real thing for reference. Look at yourself in the mirror for reference. You should absolutely just directly copy things from reference until you know how to draw them properly, and then you can, you know, just wing it yourself. So, because I might set one of these buttons to my eraser so I don't have to go over to my keyboard to hit E at some point. Because the pinky's like that, I'm gonna drop it down here a little bit. Then I like to draw little circles for where the different fingers start. And then I need to actually think about what this hand is supposed to be doing. It's like grabbing a hat, but I'm not sure if 4 fingers on top is a natural way to grab a hat. When I think of grabbing a hat, if I imagine that this is the rim, I would probably grab it like this with just the 2 fingers on top and the thumb underneath. So for that reason, I would kind of curl the other fingers. Fingers have 3 digits to them. There's one that's the longest, and then a shorter one, and then a very short one. And then you kind of can curl it around like this. If this is something you struggle with, you can also like go full-on circle mode and connect them like that. Just kind of like that, if that helps you visualize things a little bit better, and then just connect them like that. Then you have your 3 sections right there. That finger's a little long looking, but you know. Anyway, again, look at your own hand. Look at how the fingers curl. And just directly copy it. It's fine to do that. You are drawing a thing that exists in real life. You might as well look at it for reference. That's not... I don't think that's what that looks like. I'm gonna flip my canvas and use my other hand as reference. Yeah, see, that's not what that looks like at all. What we're trying to draw is something like this. So... you look at the shape of that, and it should look a little something like, I'm actually going to start with the tip here, because I can see that the tip comes into this part of the hand roughly, and then kind of goes like that, and then like that, and then this finger is just kind of like that. Alright, that's roughly correct. If you want to add a little bit more details, you can add the fold that you can kind of see there, indicating like depth here. That looks a little weird. This should end a little bit earlier, like right about there. This part's a little weird looking. That should go more like this. This is how you get good at drawing. You just look at what something's supposed to look like, and then you do it. It can be stylized. It doesn't have to be perfectly realistic, but it should follow the same rules that actual things follow. Like, I might make a super muscle man fist, or like a big chonky finger thingy where like a man's got sausage fingers, like very, very wide sort of thing like this, but I would still follow the same principles I'm following here. Like, maybe these would just be super square-ular fingers like that. It's still following the same rules. The fingers look weird and stylized. This is also not a very good hand. But it's the same rules. You got the 3 little digits that I do not render very well. Anyways, this is such a rambly video. I have long since abandoned trying to actually structure my things. Okay, anyway, if I had a hat, this is where I'd put it on and look at myself in the mirror, but I can pretty easily imagine, just so I'd bring my hand up to where my hat would be. I'd be holding it like this, where these 2 fingers are slightly bent, but otherwise, like, they don't go straight out. They're going a little bit like this, but otherwise they are not really bent at all. Gotta keep in mind the length these things are all supposed to be. Also, the shapes of the tips are important. You can see here, if I were to draw this finger, I wouldn't just end it in like a thing like that, unless well, you could if you were stylizing it, but generally speaking, because of the fingernail, fingers are shaped like this, depending on which side they're facing. This, of course, being the back, and this being the bottom of them. So I have that illustrated here. Now this is kind of a fat looking hand. The fingers are not spaced apart perhaps as much as they should be, and actually the fingers are too small compared to the hand. But that's the beauty of digital art, is we can cheat and make the hand part smaller. Now this kind of looks like an actual hand, and you wouldn't really see the thumb. The thumb is like back here underneath of it, and there you go, you got the brim of the hat underneath of it. You know, you get the idea. Not perfect, but it's sure as hell a lot better than whatever that is. This is what happens when you don't think about what you're doing. Another thing of note here is I used to draw fingers only having 2 digits. I told myself that this was a point of my style, that I just did it like that because that was just my style. But eventually I realized that they kind of tended to look better when I added the 3rd digit. Speaking of which, I might want to accentuate these a little bit. Just show where the knuckles would be by doing a little bit of this. Though that's kind of a matter of how much detail you want to add into it. Anyway, let's talk about actually drawing a person. I will get rid of you. Okay, I could go through my process, which is I start with the head and then, well, I have so much room on this tablet. I'm not used to like the size of the strokes I have to make here. Hang on. I generally start with the head and then come down with like a spine slash neck, and then I make a shape for the rib cage. That's not what that should be. Something like this. But I should probably go into this in a little bit more detail and also make this smaller. So, most people generally start with the head. Here's how you draw a head. Circle. Let me make that bigger. Circle. Oh, this tablet is taking some getting used to. I'm pretty sure I'll be better once I'm used to this, but oh, that's a pretty round circle actually. This is a pretty good webpage I found teaching how to do this. Now you might be looking at this and thinking, oh god, that's just like an ugly realistic man face with a skull? I don't want to draw realism. That's okay. I've never drawn anything that's realistic looking in my life. It can still be helpful to know, and I would recommend learning how to do it if you have any inclination towards it, but the important thing I'm trying to stress here is the underlying shapes, and getting those correct. Think of it like someone making a mask. You have to know the shape of the human head in order to actually make one of these properly. You can't just kind of make a flat slab and try to slap it on someone's face. You need to know, like, okay, the noses generally stick out like this, and they are generally, on average, here in relation to the eyes. The average person's brow line sticks out like this. It curves around like here, back towards the back of the head. It is also important to know these things in drawing. As I said, 99% of the time, whenever I draw a head, I do it a little bit something like this, and then I'm basically done. I'll add more details once I'm adding in the face, like, for example, if they're facing to the left here, I will add in a detail for like how the cheeks and the cheekbones kind of stick out a little bit, and then you got the brow line up here, for example. However, if I'm trying to draw a head at a weird angle that I'm not used to, and if you're just starting out, any angle is something you will not be used to. What I do and what you should do is this. I'm just gonna link this page in the description and you can go through it yourself. It's not overly complicated, but it'll help you get the general shape, right? I'm gonna do something really quick and sloppy. It might not be the best. There, like something a little bit like that as a base, and then I would add on eyes and such. And this is what I'm doing right here. It's not like hyper realism, but this is something approximating what an actual human head kind of looks like. However, I like drawing femboys. Oh, this isn't quite right actually. This line is supposed to be indicating where the eyes are following, and this one is too low down for that. Something like that, maybe. Oh, now that looks weird, kinda. Oh god. Or is that supposed to be the brow line, not the eyes line? You should look at this page yourself, because I did not study it long enough. That's probably meant to be the brow line, isn't it? Oh yeah, that totally is supposed to be the brow line, isn't it? That's why those eyes look so weird being that high up. It'll be like that. Yeah, okay, that looks like a face. But anyways, as I was saying, I like drawing femboys. So I can still apply this same basic thing to something that is less, you know, and I can even draw it at a different angle, one that's perhaps slightly tilted and aiming a little bit more forward. Chop that off a little bit there. And I don't have to make this come down as much to give him like a giant mansion. I can have it come down like this, and instead of having a line down here, I can just have it come to a point. Like that a little bit. I'm still used to my hand being on controls. Yeah, I forgot I have a button for it over here now. And then connect that like that. We can even make this jaw a bit less pronounced, a bit rounder. And we have a much softer looking stylized face, and I can also make the eyes much bigger, proportionally speaking. Also, I like to flip my canvas a lot. I have it binded to H on my keyboard. I'll probably set one of these keys to that later. I kind of use it as a crutch because I find it easier to draw a curve like this than like this, just because of me being right-handed. So whenever I do that, I tend to flip the canvas, like to draw this eye. I probably wouldn't recommend you get into the habit of doing that. However, I would recommend you flipping the canvas often, as it makes it a lot easier to spot when you're doing something really weird looking that you didn't notice you were doing that looked weird. The actual way you're supposed to do that is like every 5 minutes or so, just flip it and then continue working like that. Because there's just something about flipping the canvas when you're learning how to draw things that just lets you see, oh god, that looks really weird, I should fix that. Where you wouldn't normally notice that otherwise. And we can make the nose a bit smaller and, you know. Same exact principles as this, but this one is a bit more stylized looking. You know, another thing I never really did before was draw eyebrows. But you should really draw eyebrows. They help a lot in letting your characters be expressive. You're really crippling yourself if you don't have that. I like to make the top of the eyes thicker than the bottom to represent eyelashes. Alternatively, you can like literally draw in eyelashes like that. There's a lot of different things you can do. That's all a matter of style. I'm not gonna really talk about style, I'm just trying to get you to understand the basics of the shapes and stuff that can be applied to any style you have. Here, I'll show you another example as I draw an actual full figure. Let me get this out of the way. Oh, another thing Clip Studio has that's really nice. See, this is on a separate layer, so I can't drag this at the same time unless I click this. Now I can. That is so useful. I can't. Buy Clip Studio. I'm not sponsored by Clip Studio, but I wish I was. Okay, so the reason you draw heads like this is because it goes over all the important shapes. The big circle represents like the back of the cranium. This line indicates how the jaw should line up. That is a very crooked line I drew. And you got these lines right here, sort of indicating the frontal mask sort of area of the face. This line helps you center the chin regardless of what angle you're at, etc. Well, the body has important shapes like that too. So I'm going to start with the head up here. I'm not going to go through the construction process because I already know how to draw a head at this angle pretty consistently. Yep, there it is. That's the head. Of course, a stylized one, but a head nonetheless. Okay, rib cage, hips, joints. Those are what you need to be aware of more than anything else. Don't get me wrong, everything is important, but in order to be able to get away with a basic functional looking human body, those are the main important ingredients that you need to learn how to keep in mind, essentially. Oh, also the spine. Spine's helpful too, so I'm representing the spine just with a straight line. Now the two main parts of the torso you need to worry about, as I said, are the ribs and hips. Those are like the two solid parts Those are not going to be bending at all. There's a lot of different ways to represent them. YouTube, if you demonetize me for this, I'm going to have a fucking fit. This is artistic, educational purposes. I'll show you how I do it. I don't want you to necessarily copy me, as I'm not actually sure if this is the best way to do it, but this works for me more or less. I do sometimes struggle with shoulders, admittedly, so there might be a better method. I recommend Googling like human body shape drawing, for example, like I just did, and see how other people do it. Some people have these ovals, some people use boxes, but I use a pretty simple shape that's a little something like this. There. Sort of a slight trapezoidal kind of thingy. And then for the hips, I do something a little bit like this. I'm drawing a circle here because this is representing that we're seeing the top of this. I'm imagining the camera as sort of aiming towards the center of the chest here, and that's why you can't see like the bottom of this or the top of this. But that will change depending on the angle and the pose you're drawing. I'll show a different example later. And then I draw a bikini line. Then if I want, I can connect this with some lines. And there's the torso. Next, the arms. I like to make a new layer for the arms. By the way, you're supposed to be doing this in proportion. Should have mentioned that. Here's a proportion thingy. You're gonna want to do some measurements like this when you're starting out. Now the size of the head is going to vary wildly depending on what kind of style you use and like the age of the character, for example. But if you follow something a little bit like this, then it'll put you on the right track, roughly. Torso is generally about 3 heads tall, and the legs are about 4 heads tall. It's been a long time since I've actually used this myself because I used to do this a lot. I feel like I've gotten a pretty okay handle on it. The wrists come down to here. They'll be a bit longer or shorter depending on whether the character's sex is male or female. Males tend to have their wrists come down a little bit more below the crotch area. But anyway, arms. I tend to make arms on a new layer just because they tend to be over top of things. Like if I'm drawing an arm like this and I want to do something like that, it's going to be really annoying if I want to edit this later on, if I notice that something looks weird, but if it's on a separate layer, I can just move it around without messing with the underlying thing. Okay, make a circle where the shoulder is meant to be. Make another one. Then some people like to freeball it like this. I do this sometimes. They just kind of go down like that. But something I find very helpful is to first draw the joints and sort of connect the dots. For example, I'm gonna have the wrist down around here and the elbow at about the halfway point. So then all I need to do is connect them. Now the arms have a specific shape to them, of course, and this is the point where if you wanted to get that correct, you would look up arm reference. And there's a whole bunch of different stuff here. Best thing to do is to look at actual real-life examples, or just look at your own arm. Now, I'm a bit of a twink, so my arm is not going to be representative of all arms. However, even mine still has a bit of a, well, there's kind of a shape going on here, I guess. It kind of divots in towards the elbow region, and then it bulges out slightly more, and then it tapers in towards the wrist. But that's only at this angle. If it was at a different angle, there'd be a more pronounced shape there. If it was this angle, that's a different shape again. The elbow sticks out a little bit there. That is something for you to worry about whenever you want to. It doesn't have to be right now. Right now, I'm telling you how to get the shapes generally correct, and the proportions, and how to construct things. And hand hanging down like here, it's like, whatever. I'll do the same on the other side real quick. And I sort of instinctually added more of a shape here, just because, like, I'm used to doing this. Now this is that kind of a weird looking pose because the one arm is sticking out more than the other, but that's okay. I'm gonna select the thing and then click this, scale rotate. You can drag this little dot up here to change the point of rotation to there. And wowie zowie, look at that. Actually, I want to do the opposite to the other one because I want room for the legs to show. Okay, legs. Same deal as the arms. I'm going to draw where the knees would be. Then draw some little feet, just basic little elf shoe representation kind of thingy. I think this is about right. Let's find out. You can generally get away with making the thighs just look like basic ovals. There will usually be a slight gap in between here unless your character is heavier. Another thing that can be helpful is not just looking at real photos of people, but also looking at how people draw certain things. So for example, if you're drawing something very muscular and you look at an actual leg, it's like, okay, how the fuck do I draw these muscles? Well, if that's a little intimidating for you, you can look at how someone else did it. Here's an example of a somewhat muscular looking leg someone drew. It's about choosing which lines are most important to represent. And of course, this is only if you want to draw something very muscular looking, or something that is extra detailed. It's about looking at the muscles and thinking, okay, which lines here are important and which lines are not. For example, there is a tiny little thing sticking out right there. That's probably not so important. The muscles surrounding the knee, for example, like that shape right there, that is pretty prominent. That's probably something you would want to draw if you were trying to draw a muscular looking set of thighs. For our purposes, however, this shape generally works pretty okay. Curve out a little bit and then curve inwards. This is going to be a very stiff looking weird pose, but we're just looking at the proportions and shapes and stuff. Alright, that's basically a person. Oh, this is still on the arms layer, isn't it? Whoops, I was supposed to do that on the other one, whatever. Also, at some point I would probably go in, erase this, and draw an actual neck. Neck width is also very, very stylized, because actual human necks tend to be pretty wide, something like that maybe, but that ain't how I do. And just connect that to the shoulder however you want. These shoulders are a little raised looking. I'm gonna actually lower them. Once again, by cheating. And then I'll just redraw this. That is how you would draw some raised shoulders, but this is meant to just be a default standing position, probably somewhat relaxed looking. And there you go, that's a relatively standard looking person, a little bit stylized, but all the important shapes we talked about, the joints and the ribs and the hips and stuff, are the same sort of basic shapes we would use to sketch out and plan out how to draw an actual, like, realistic person. And it is at this point that you could set the opacity down on all of these and make a new layer and start drawing on all your details, like the face and the hair and clothes, whatever you want to do. But what if we wanted our style to be a little bit different, even more simplified? Well, we would do the same ass thing. I'm gonna start with the head. Have a little line representing the spine. I'm gonna have it at a different pose this time, maybe something a little sassy looking. And it is at this point that I can show you how to do different angles and stuff on this. These ribs might be facing us a little bit because they're kind of leaning back, so you would see the bottom of this, and I'm gonna make this little circle to represent that, to help us visualize things. And you would not see the top of the hips. I'm still gonna do the same basic shapes, same bikini line. You want to have a little thing there, rather than it just ending in a V. This will help you space out the thighs. Maybe I'm gonna have this be a little bit shorter looking. Like, yeah, basically, like, not even any torso at all. It's pretty much all head, but there's still a little thingy here. And actually, maybe we will make the lower body larger. Follow some shape theory stuff. You ever see those, like, Looney Tunes guideline thingies? Basically, things that are shaped like this are generally friend-shaped. Things that, like, kind of start up there, then go bigger towards the bottom. Do the feet and legs. I'm gonna plan out having this foot be bent back a little bit. That's gonna be a little tricky to do, but yeah, I guess maybe that works. I don't know. I'll have less of a thigh gap, actually. Oh, I said you're supposed to use this line as a guideline for where the thigh would be, so you might think it's supposed to be here, but that's a little wrong looking. The truth is, when they're at an angle, well, like, the ass would kind of start here, so, and it goes back like that. So at a certain point, the thighs start to kind of go behind where the front of the pelvis is, which is right here. Something to keep in mind. His head is a little weird looking. I think it's too high up, maybe. Maybe also a little bit too big. At least too tall. Now we give him a sassy baby hand on hip kind of pose. Because, yeah. And this you wouldn't really see this arm. And there, we made a little baby fella using the exact same principles and the exact same shapes, but completely different style. Maybe the head should actually be way bigger and it could be like a chibi sort of thingy. Yeah. Yeah. Kinda. I don't know, I've never really drawn chibis. I'm not sure if that's good or not. I think the limbs. If you're drawing something like this, usually you want the limbs to be smaller than they normally would be in relation to the torso. Oh, this is so cheating. Okay, yeah, just do. I can't salvage this. Whatever. You get the idea. Okay, I'm gonna talk line art now. I already told you about vector layers earlier. Well, kinda. I'm gonna tell you again. You see this button right here, new vector layer. If you want to do line art in Clip Studio Paint, this is the one you do. I'm gonna turn some of these thingies down a little bit. I have a custom line art brush here that's kinda squiggly and blah blah blah. It's a little very soft looking. It's not just a solid black line like this. But because this is Clip Studio, I'm allowed to use this with my vector layers, which means I can go in and start making a face. And if I mess something up like this, I can take this control point and go like that. Connect these two tips together. Delete that by holding Alt and left clicking. Adjust the shape of this a little bit, however I want. Maybe lower the sensitivity on that, so just do a little bit. Redraw a vector line width. I can use my sensitivity to change it like this and make it thicker on top, and it's just, God, I wish this video was sponsored by Clip Studio. Once I'm ready to do line art, I can double tap G to go to the fill. I have a thing called line art color here, where I have fill up to vector path enabled, which means if I fill this in under here with white, I have it set to refer multiple layers, so I don't even have to be on the same layer as the line art to fill it in. I can fill it in, and it fills into the exact center point that this line art is on. If you want to do shading, the standard method to do that is to take color, set your layer to multiply all the way up here behind the webcam. You can't see it, I'm sorry. And then do just whatever you want. Clip to layer below, like that. Let's say you have multiple different layers for color. You don't just have the one color layer. Maybe you have, well, maybe you have something like I'm doing over here, where I have a whole weird setup for the hair. So the hair is across multiple layers with a whole bunch of weird stuff happening, but I still want the same multiply layer to affect the hair along with everything else. You make a folder. Disable clipping group on those, because it's like the default for some reason. Put all your stuff in there. Now you have two separate thingies that are both part of the same thing and both getting multiplied over top of it. Yay! You can change the color of your whole line art layer by clicking this on it and clicking that. I'm trying to think of any other super useful tips I can give. I don't know, those who have seen my 3D modeling videos will know that my approach to learning things is to not really learn the fundamentals and just like build up a slow thing from that groundwork. I like to learn the bare minimum of what I need to get ahead, and then just whenever something new comes up I don't know how to do, I learn that on the spot. For example, I hadn't ever really tried to draw muscles before this picture right here. When was this? This was November 2018. That was not that long ago, because this is meant to be a very muscular character, and I would be doing a disservice if I did not draw her like that. So what did I do? I looked up arm muscles reference or something. I sifted through all of this stuff that is way too complicated for me to make use of, let me tell you that. And then maybe I would look arm muscles reference drawing, see how other people do it. Kind of absorb an aggregate of looking at the important parts here. Or maybe I just type in muscular arm. One thing that immediately stood out to me is this big ol' shoulder muscle that I had never really drawn before. You can see it on this dude too. It kind of has that curve there. Hey, how about I open it so you can actually see it underneath the webcam? You see it has like that curve there. So I probably should have made this a bit more exaggerated now that I'm looking back at it, but I did that. I made this part stick out a little bit because I noticed that you got that going on there too. God, that is a bulbous neck. And you just need to figure out what's important to render and what isn't. I didn't need to draw every single little vein in this dude's arm. Sometimes I'm stumped, I'll look at like muscular anime arm I see is something I had already searched before while doing this. Well-budgeted anime can be a decent reference point for how to symbolically render something normally realistic looking. Like, you want to make sure the artist knows what they're doing, they're not just drawing random lines, so you do want to double check it by comparing it to actual arms. Here's an example of like, not a super muscular, but a toned looking anime lady. You can see there's that line right there. Those two lines, this one and that one, they help indicate that there is a shoulder muscle right there. You know, these down here, which I think I did something kind of like that. There's that line right there. I think that one makes sense. I don't remember. Why is the background to this white? What the hell is this? Tumblr, what did you do? Man, I miss Tumblr. Oh, something you're gonna want to do is get over your fear of drawing things at really weird poses and angles, because you will fear doing that. I still fear doing that, but it is an excellent way to sort of cement your knowledge on how something should operate in 3D space. So I'm gonna draw like a head right here. I'm gonna make this at a really weird top-down angle. So like, oh, almost forgot to mention, if you're doing line art, you see this stabilization option down here? If you don't see it on whatever brush you're using, you can click on this, and this eyeball icon is whether or not it's gonna appear down there. Turn up stabilization. It'll help you draw things smoothly. If I don't have any of it, then it's like stabilization makes it so you're kind of dragging around a worm on a string that's drawing your lines for you. If I have it super high, you can see it's like lagging behind my cursor a little bit, and it makes it easier to smooth things out. 25 works pretty well for me. Anyways, so this head's gonna be at like this angle, like facing way down there. And you know what? So is the rest of the body. Now, something that can be somewhat helpful here is making like a box around the thing in perspective. You're supposed to draw like a vanishing point away over there, but I'm just freeballing it. It's like, that's getting smaller because it's far away from us. Okay, this is probably not correct. I'm supposed to use the vanishing point. I placed them in a box. Now I need to think about how to approach this, because I want them at this angle that the box is in. Maybe I'll start by marking where their feet should be, like down here, and then I'll try to think to myself, okay, maybe the bottom of the torso would go around here, top of the torso would be here, he would be like underneath of the head because of this angle you're at. No, that would be too... No, maybe this would be way higher, actually. Let me just draw this. The hips would be down here, actually. Flip it to in case it's looking weird without me noticing. One foot going like this. Well, it should be pretty tiny, though. Maybe even... yeah, maybe smaller than that. Maybe not that small, actually. Maybe that is the right... No, but it will be back further. I'm visualizing, I'm creating in my mind's eye what I think should go in these blanks that I haven't filled in yet to make this look decent. Was this a success? Like, it could have been worse. I would obviously refine it and add more details to it and stuff. Yeah, my original tries at this angle used to be a lot worse than that, so I've gotten a little bit better, but this still isn't great looking. Of course, I also did this in like 20 seconds, so, you know, give me a break. Something else I wish to stress is that the longer you spend on one particular body part, the more stiff the whole thing is gonna look. If you spend like 20 minutes on the head, like you draw all the details of the face and everything, and then you draw like the top of the body, and then you draw the arms, and you do it all piece by piece by piece, none of them are going to flow together at all. Let me see if I can find an example of something very stiff looking in some of my old artwork. You know, I certainly did struggle with this problem, but I think in order to really illustrate it, I'm going to actually throw shade at my partner Avery. Here's an adorable thing they drew of me. They struggle with stiffness in their art a fair bit, however. Now, this is them right here. They don't look too bad, but me... Now, this might have actually been a little bit intentional because they're kind of hugging me and I'm just kind of sitting there not knowing what to do about it. That might be sort of the point. But even so, my pose here doesn't flow very well. It's just kind of like, okay, there's the torso, and then there's that body part coming out of it, and then it bends, and it goes down there to that foot. Here's this arm, it's attached to a shoulder, and then it goes down. I realize I'm just describing how anatomy works, but what I'm trying to illustrate is that they're not doing anything more than that. They don't have any flow. There's no gesture to it. Let's talk about gesture drawing. In fact, let's go so far as to talk about lines of action. This is a classic example. You see the kitty swinging the bat? Now, while this image on the left here is technically correct in that it's showing a cat, the arms are coming off of the body and then they're holding a bat and the bat is down on the ground where they're smacking it. It doesn't have any personality to it. It's very stiff looking. The one on the right is using a line of action and it's all flowing together to really like hammer home, bam, that kitty smacking. Now, the idea behind gesture drawing is you're generally supposed to try to not spend a lot of time on it. You just kind of try to go with the flow. So I'm gonna draw a pose. Let's see. I'm gonna draw someone jumping up into the air. So I'm gonna start with the head, but you don't necessarily have to start with the head, especially in gesture drawing. It can be helpful to start with whatever the most important part is. Then I'm gonna start with the most important part, which is they're gonna be doing a Super Mario leap. So I'm gonna have their fist coming up into the air. I'm not putting any detail into this. I'm gonna curve it down like this, like that. And I'm gonna have the body follow the same curve. And I'm also gonna have their legs follow the same curve. This is kind of getting away from me a little bit, but like, then their foot would be hanging down like this. This is gonna be the line of action. The bottom of their torso would be around here. I'm not following the same rules. I'm not carefully laying out all these constructive pieces. I'm just drawing the basic shape. And then knee would come up here from the other leg, maybe, and hang down like that. The foot would be going right there. The other arm coming down like this. Now, it can be kind of hard to even tell what you're looking at this point. But like, here, let's get like the neck maybe, that'll help. And now the anatomy's looking a little bit wonky. Gesture drawing is kind of the inverse of what I talk about with construction over here, in that the proportions and how everything connects is not necessarily going to look correct, but what it is going to look like is dynamic. It's going to be a decent looking pose. I'll tell you one thing I can do to fix this is to move the head to the actual center of the torso. That's starting to look a little bit more recognizable as the person jumping. The line here to represent the shoulder going up, maybe. This hand right here is not going with the line of action. Line of action is like this, but then all of a sudden this goes like that. That's bad. I'm gonna reverse this. This should be going like, well, it's also just anatomically incorrect. The thumb wouldn't be there. So like, boop, 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 and it's curving towards this way. Maybe it looks kind of more like an uppercut at this point, I don't know. And say what you want about this drawing, it follows the line of action. Follows it fairly well. Maybe this knee could be raised a little bit more, so that the knee itself is following the line of action a little bit better too. Going like that. Curved lines are very important, because while it's true that legs don't necessarily curve like this, you know, in reality you have the thigh that goes in like that, and you got the knee there, and then it would actually curve a little bit more like this. Having this curve follow the line of action on it helps you make a more solid looking pose. And if you want to actually go along with this, what you can do from that is start to lay these instructions on top of it. Start to refine it a little bit better. Figure out, okay, rib cage would be going around here, like that maybe. Everything about this region looks very wrong. The hips would be like this. This line from the leg here would be going in like that, and then like the bottom of that leg, like the one cheek, would be around there. perhaps, and just continue refining it until it looks somewhat decent. It is also possible to use these construction shapes while gesture drawing. That's basically what I did while I was drawing this over here. I kind of just went with the flow. I like drew this curvy little line, and there is actually sort of a decent line of action here. It goes like this. It's not perfect, but it's kind of there still. The spine will typically go through the line of action, but the line of action is not like an anatomical feature. It's not, the line of action is not the spine. The line of action is just whatever direction the character happens to be flowing in. Now it's easy to see where it is for a pose like this, but it can be a little bit harder when you're trying to have a sort of casual looking standing pose. It's like, if you're trying to draw a character like this, it's like, well, where the hell is line of action for this? Well, can't really have one for this. Maybe you could argue it's just straight down like that, but you can still make good poses with solid lines of action even for neutral standing positions. For example, here's the guy with his hand in his pocket. How would you apply a line of action to something so casual like this? It's the same pose, but this is a much better version of it because there is a line of action that's being followed. In this original one, I was just kind of drawing the body parts, how they'd be naturally laid out. You know, you got the torso, and then this leg would be going in that direction, this one going in this direction, have this arm be kind of relaxed, and then going like that. And that works if you're trying to draw something like super realistic, for example, but I'm not. This is very stylized. We can push and pull and exaggerate things ever so slightly to make it look less stiff. If I tried to replicate this exact pose in a mirror, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. This arm is actually very slightly curving this way, which isn't quite how arms would work. But that doesn't change the fact that this looks a lot better than this. It's actually more natural looking, more casual looking. He doesn't look so stiff, even though it's actually technically less natural. From there, I can add in all the actual details I want and fix things up a little bit. The legs here were not quite how I wanted them to look. They were a bit too thick and chunky for this guy, so I added a little bit of a space there. But it still follows the same shape. It still has that line of action. Looking at this now, I'm wondering if it would actually look better if this hand were, let me just temporarily merge all my layers like an idiot. If this hand wasn't tilted like this, it was instead more like that. I'm wondering if that would look better, because this hand kind of goes against the line of action, the way it is like this. Technically, this entire arm does. Technically, if this were to follow the line of action, the arm would be going like that, but well, we can't really have that. I want him in the pocket. So it's arguable if it would be improved by tilting the direction that hand is going in a little bit, but I think it's a good pose. Should I talk about clothing folds? And like shading and stuff? There's definitely gonna be some people wanting to know how to do that. Okay, clothing folds. These were kinda complicated. It just took me years of trying new things, and let me turn some stuff off to make this a bit easier to look at. Around the edges, you can use these kinds of shapes, these little bumps to indicate them. You want to use them primarily in locations where they make more sense to be in. The amounts that you use is entirely dependent on your style. In reality, clothes have way more folds than this, but it would look very crowded and conflict with the style if I added more. This sleeve is rolled up, so a bunch of fabric is being mushed together here, therefore it makes sense to add more here, and also make them bigger, and so I got these big pieces right here. The fabric is just kind of lying there, not really scrunched up or anything around this area, so I didn't put anything there. Around the waist or the hips is a good place to usually put one or two. I have some lines here to indicate that this pocket is being stretched out by the hand inside of it. These ones down here aren't that good looking, but I try to have them around the knee. Maybe I shouldn't have had these extra ones down here. Joints are where they tend to bundle up. You can see I have some around this person's elbow as well. As for how to shade them, pick a direction for your light source to be coming from. I chose this area around here, and somewhat in front of him. So like this whole section of him is not getting hit with any light at all. That's why there's shadows in the front of his face. And you gotta think about where folds would be standing up. It's obvious when you're drawing lines. It's like obviously, well, this wouldn't be shaded, but underneath of it would. This section is in between two clothing folds, so it makes sense that it wouldn't be getting much light. So the shadow's there. The default state of things is darkness. Light is a luxury. So something that can be helpful is to initially have everything baked in shadows, and then like you could have everything dark by default and then figure out where the light would be hitting. So I think, okay, obviously it's gonna hit here, and then so I like erase that. By the way, you can erase with transparency, so you can erase with the brush you're using by clicking this down here or hitting C to toggle to it. So I can have the same, instead of just using a solid eraser like that, I can have the same sort of shape around it like that, around the edges. And I think to myself, okay, well this whole section is definitely getting hit by light, so I should set it like that, and I don't see why this wouldn't get hit by light, and that right there, and it kind of brings me to the same. But this one's being blocked by this arm a little bit, so there'd probably be a little bit of a shadow there. Now this probably shouldn't be here. You get the idea. Same deal for hair. Hair is complicated. I'll be honest, I don't really know how I do this. I just kind of do it. I just put little bonus shapes in that follow the same pattern as the rest of the. Maybe this wouldn't be like this actually. Maybe this is starting to form sort of a banana shape here with this patch of light, which I don't think I want. I want it to kind of. Then I get rid of. Maybe I should have it be just like this. That could work. But I like the implication that there's another hair spike right here with this, so I'll think about that. I don't know. This is a little weird looking with this line. It might look better if I actually just got rid of that line right there. Maybe. There are many decisions you can make. Only most of them are wrong, but there are still quite a few that are right. And you'll figure out which ones are wrong in time. Just don't sweat it. Like I said, your drawings are gonna be garbage at first, and they might stay garbage for some time, but eventually they will stop becoming that. You can look forward to that day, but you can't force it to arrive tomorrow. And you're just gonna get very frustrated and very down and sad with yourself if you try. Anyways, I like this tablet. I do believe I will be using it from now on. If you would like to get your own, check the link in the description. It is a pretty solid mid-tier tablet. It doesn't have the screen that you can see what you're doing on. Those tend to be a lot more expensive, but I really can't complain about this thing for the price point. I mean, I got it for free, but if I hadn't gotten it for free, I would still be pretty happy with it. Check the link in the description if you want it, and thank you to GAOMON for giving this to me. Wait, I forgot to talk about how to draw eyes and hair. I'll make this quick. Okay, this is what an eye looks like. You know, there's some people who have phobias of eyeballs staring directly at them, and they're probably not very comfortable looking at this. I'll just have this one opened. You see this shape? It's like an almond. It is like an almond. Specifically, this is the one eye. The inner corner is down lower than the upper corner, the outer corner. This one's up high here. In anime, you'll see a whole bunch of weird, funky eye shapes, and honestly, you can do pretty much whatever you want. But if you're ever in doubt, you should fall back to this almond shape. You can use it as the basis to create any number of other eye shapes. You can make a big, wide-eyed looking thing like this. You know, nice, cute, innocent looking, still has the almond. There's one corner, there's the other corner. Here's some other quick examples. This guy, almond shaped. That's one corner, that's the other. This girl, almond shaped. There's one corner. This corner is kind of up here, so this is a bit of a funky, like you could maybe argue that it's this, but it's not really, it's kind of weird. This is a deviation from the norm. The norm would be for it to be shaped a little bit more like this, perhaps? But I wanted this character to be very wide-eyed looking, so I opened that up a little bit more over here, even if it's not, like, how eyes are actually shaped. Some more serious looking eyes, still almond shaped. There's one corner, there's the other. This is a bonus corner. Cute, innocent looking eyes, almond shaped. As for hair, something you may have noticed among these characters is that they have very specific looking hair, particularly this boy. In all the drawings I have of him, these hair strands are all like corresponding to each other. You always have these four big things right here. Bangs are all the same. That's something I worry about for consistency's sake after I already initially finished designing his hair. When you're first drawing hair, you want to follow a similar philosophy to adjust your drawing. Let me draw a head real quick. Okay, you might be tempted to have some big ol' specific anime spikes like, whoa, and then this one goes like that, and then, oh, what if this, and then this one will come down. No, fuck that. What you need to do is go with the flow. Just like, find your hairline. Hairline would be roughly this, I guess. And start, like, if your character has bangs, just decide on a general style. Like, if you want a bowl cut, of course, that's going to be very different. You can just have a line coming out like this, maybe some lines up here. But if they got, like, wavy flowing hair or straight hair, whatever, just kind of, just let it go a little bit. And you can draw a bunch of different versions, but just experiment. Come up here and just let it flow. Draw fast and loose. Don't go like this. Trying to get a very specific. No. There's your shape. Done. Okay. Connect the. Bring this down here. Bring it all back. Something right there, maybe something like there. Okay, done. You might not be able to do this right away. I've seen people comment like, "Wow, Mako just pumped out amazing hair in 5 seconds." Whenever I'm streaming myself doing art, you might struggle with this, but just try it. Just go for it. If you don't like this, disable that, make a new layer, try again. Let me try a more straight style. Kind of come down again, not thinking about it, just going. I mean, I can't think about a general shape. For example, maybe I want like some Timmy Turner hair. You know Timmy Turner, he's got like that sort of weird shape going on. But I wouldn't do it like that. I would go like, just kind of try to feel it out. This is kind of dumb looking, but like it can still, I mean, like this could still kind of pass off. It's really anime, but yeah, that's dumb as hell, but it's still, like, it still has a nice flow to it. It's a very specific shape, but I still let my hand run wild, and it's a lot better looking for it. And then from there, you can start to think about what this would look like at different angles. I would not want to draw this character facing, like, this way, for example, because then I would have to think about, okay, this whole mess is, like, pointing towards the camera now. How would that look? Answer, I don't know. Something like that, maybe? No, this is coming down more? I don't know. Go ask Butch Hartman or something. Fucking pay him some $5,000 commission to draw you some shitty anime character or something. I don't know. Also, while you're drawing hair, you want to not usually start from the tip here. You want to start from the root. Hair starts at the roots. It starts from the scalp. You have like a scalp right here. It wouldn't make much sense to start down here and then work your way back up to the root. Start at the root and feel your way out from there. That'll help you achieve a nicer flow. Look at that. Also, if you buy the tablet, there's a button that you click that makes the cost $10 less. Somehow. Make sure you click that. Yeah. Okay, that's the end of the video.